I gotta change my window here that I'm doing this on. Zoom meeting. Okay, cool. So there we go. Got this. Let me take that off. And then let me just double check to make sure that all the audio is coming through on the live stream. I've accidentally done live streams before, like whole live streams, and then only to find out through on the live. No audio came through.
Oh no.
No audio came through.
Oh no.
Okay, cool. So we got audio going. Sounds good. All right. So that's good. Let me. This is good there, and then. All right, sweet man. So I'm here today with Varti. How do you pronounce your last name?
The main question of the day.
Yeah.
Deuchoghlian.
Deuchoghlian. Okay, I was googling it and I was like Deuchoghlian, Deuchoghlian. I was like, how do you pronounce this? Yeah, I was like, how do you pronounce this beast of a last name, man?
Yeah, it's Armenian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a little. It looked like there were several ways you could pronounce it. But so basically for my YouTube watchers and subscribers, quick little history. Varti hit me up one day and it was in relation to synth presets, and that's how we kind of got the ball rolling on the conversation. And shortly after that, I reached out to him in regards to electronic music production, and then we started working together, and he incorporated me into his mentorship program and did that for about 3 months. And then I finished it up and it was really great. I learned a lot. And after that, some time went by and I kind of let myself process the whole experience. And then I kind of wanted to do a full round circle, which is today, and give Varti a introduction and just show some of my followers who you are. So I was going to let you go ahead and tell us, who are you?
Awesome, man. Yeah. So my name is Varti Deuchoghlian, complicated last name. I've been writing music for a very, very long time. Since my teenage years, I started off playing the guitar as an instrument that I was really attracted to, listening to a lot of grunge music, rock music. This is like over 20 years ago. Are you getting the feed? It's not like stopping.
Yeah, no, I think.
But if not, that's cool.
Yeah, we're good.
So, awesome, great. So yeah, I started playing guitar at a young age. Quickly realized that I'm like, I'm just sick of playing other people's music, and I started writing chords and kind of got introduced myself to like composition. Right. I joined a couple of bands. Grunge, alternative became metal. Metal became death metal through time. So I got really into like intense, heavy music. About 12 years ago, parallel to that, I was a raver. Not a raver in a traditional sense, but I enjoyed a lot of electronic music. I enjoyed trance back in the day, right? Nice to go to after-hour parties. So myself, you know what? I'm good at writing music. Let me like dabble into this electronic music stuff. So about over 10 years ago, I started picking up Ableton. I was like dabbling around, and that's where my electronic career kind of started, right? So I've been doing it for 10 plus years now. I eventually left my job, and I started like writing more music. I was part of another band before, another duo in electronic music. It was more on the progressive trance side of things. That was my first big project, I would say. I was able to like release a lot of tracks on labels, got a lot of press support. We toured, got a lot of connections in the industry with labels, with management, with booking teams as well. So that was a big part of my life up to 2018, where parallel to freelancing and mixing and mastering for people, I was also starting to educate, because I realized a lot of the issues that came up in mixing was not really the mixing engineer mixing the track for it to sound better, but the producer sending tracks over that needed a lot of production work, right? So as much as people used to, like producers used to tell me like, Varti, what can I improve next time? I'm like, wow, I could talk forever about that, right? Not to be like, not coming across as an ass, just in terms of like, there's so much that can be done in production to make the mixing process 100 times better. So that led me into running assisted mixing classes, where I used to show people how I mix music. And through time, I realized that's not enough. I need to show people how to produce music properly. So the mentorship at first was 6 weeks long, ended up being the 3-month version, which you took on afterwards. And it's like years of development and going through different students and seeing what works best, taking the best parts and making an optimal experience. In 2018, when I started this, I also switched from my previous group, Eagle Eye Stallion, which was the progressive trance stuff we toured with, to more Hokey, which is more, I would say, indie-ish electronic music with dance elements. So parallel to that, I was running the educational / freelancing. But I focus much more on education these days. I don't take on a lot of mix masters. I rarely do. Most of the mix mastering that I do, aside from my music, happens during the mentorship, when I'm showing the student step by step how to mix and master the song.
Nice.
So that's pretty much brings us up to like today, I guess, in a nutshell.
So I basically gathered from what you just said that I was privileged enough to basically get the version 2.0 of your mentorship.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's years and years of development and work, but everything starts that way, right?
Yeah.
Your music, your whatever developing. I've always been a good teacher in general, and I've gotten better through time, obviously. But my sole purpose is to make sure that when students do a program, like for me, it's not the time I'm giving to the student that's less important than the results I'm able to deliver for them, right? So for me, the approach is always, how can I fine tune the experience in terms of how can I teach the fundamentals? What type of thought processes can I bring upon the students to learn from, for them to be able to get to a point where 3 months after they're thinking differently. And that's important, because if you start thinking differently on production while understanding the fundamentals, there's so many different decisions you start taking. It's not about figuring out how to do specific tips and tricks, which you can learn on YouTube. It's more kind of a reframing and understanding what are the questions that we're asking ourselves wrong in production that's leading us to, let's say, roadblocks, that's leading us to situations where we're stuck not being able to finish tracks, or coming up with ideas that aren't strong enough in general, or having issues with harmonies, or whatever it is the issue that the student's having. So through time, I'm always making the experience better, because I want to make sure that the results after 3 months come across and we see it in the student. For me, that's my ultimate priority, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'll say from my personal experience that, well, first of all, I did, like anybody should do research on somebody before you dive in and, hire somebody to do something, learn about them and whatnot. And I went and read raving reviews on you. I forget which website it was, but they all had great things to say about you. And one of the things that I was like, okay, this sounds good, was a lot of people were like, Varti's very patient, which I had my experience. Sometimes after watching some of the videos, you're like, all right, Tom, now go back and watch the video and rewatch what we learned. And one of my worst habits of my entire life, it's probably because I'm super right brain dominant, is having a clear message, knowing what I want to say beforehand. And I watched it, I was like, poor Varti. He had I was like, so Varti, would you say I'm very ADD? And I was just watching it, I'm like, oh my god, I gotta get my shit together. But you were very patient, and I really appreciate that, man. Like, it's gotta be for you a challenge sometimes. You're always adapting to new students and whatnot, but for you, that's got to be a great growth potential, because you're constantly interacting with new and more people and growing as a teacher, which is what makes you so great.
Yeah, 100%. I feel part of the growth, as you said, is to be able to quickly assess where the student is, where they want to go, and also being able to see how much information they can absorb, how they absorb information, what's their learning curve, and based on all those variables, be able to educate in a way that is most beneficial, because how you learn and how someone else learns in the mentorship is very, very different, right? So yeah, it has allowed me to be more rounded as an individual in terms of a teacher and how to pass on the message. Definitely 100%. It's the most exciting thing is to see that progress though, right? And that progress is very catered terms of where you end up versus another student, it's always at a different state, because they have different learning capacity. You come to a different stage as well, right? So it's been a great learning opportunity for me as well, and I feel like I'm pretty damn good about it too, you know.
That's good. Yeah, that's awesome. It's always good to feel good about the work you do. I was gonna say, I always think of things in terms of the medical field, because that's sort of my baseline for professionalism and understanding things, and I kind of branch out from there. But I would say one of the things I noticed with what you do is, you just talked about just a second ago, was that you cater to each person's sort of specific needs, and that's when I feel sort of like quality of care comes into play. That's I've personally seen in the medical field, different hospitals treat differently, but really good care, the best care, is when you know they're really paying attention to you and your needs. And that just goes in any field, when they really listen and pay attention and deliver specifically for that person. And that's what you do. And one specific example I have was it was really simple, but it stuck in my mind. I'm terrible at math, but you were telling me about your mathematical sort of equation of figuring out where the top level of a sound should be and the bottommost level, and you kind of averaged the two out. And I was sitting there and I was like, oh, math, brain hurts. And you're like, you broke it down in a really easy way for me to understand the process. I was like, oh man, this guy's been doing this forever. He's great. So yeah, man, it was a good experience. Let me see what else here. You actually answered like 50 questions that I had right off the jump. I was like, holy shit.
That's fine.
I was like, holy shit, Varti. I was looking at my list. I'm like, dude, he's just going down this damn list. So I had, what DAW did you start with? Was it Ableton?
Yes, 100%. Actually, not really. When I seriously got into production, I started with Ableton. In the band days, I used to use Cakewalk from Sonar.
Oh, okay. Nice.
And then I moved on to Studio One for a bit. I wrote maybe my first dance track, but then I quickly moved on to Ableton, because I'm like, you know what? I want the German engineering stuff. I mean, not that one DAW is better than the other. I had a natural inclination and attraction to it.
Yeah.
And I just bought it and I just took it on, and I started falling in love with it, you know? Not to say that you need to be using Ableton to write professional music. You can use for whatever you want, you know? That was my go-to, just in terms of the traction I had, the way the plugin, the DAW looked.
So you're saying if it came down to Ford versus Mercedes, you're a Mercedes kind of guy?
Or BMW, maybe?
I mean, maybe that's what I meant. Is Mercedes German?
Or Porsche? Yeah.
Porsche. Okay. I thought so. Yeah. Well, you know I'm Texan, so I had to go with Ford, because Ford is the best in Texas.
I had a Jeep Cherokee, which I loved.
Oh, okay, nice.
So
yeah,
that's American, right?
I think so. Let me see here. So I kind of touched on it already, but I'll go into it. Or no,
Sure.
Hold on a second. So you said you've toured the world and stuff. Clark had actually told me, I don't remember specifically, but he's like, make sure you ask Varti about this story about where you got, I think you may have been in China or something like that, and a setup, there was like a malfunction or something, and you had to like quickly resolve it. And he said it was a crazy story.
Yeah. No. It was in well, they're kind of, I know what he's talking about, because Clark actually, like, he's one of my, he works for me in terms of the mentorship. So if you go through the mentorship, you'll get to work with Clark as well. But so yeah, I know what he's talking about. But the malfunction stuff, I think he's confusing two stories. The malfunction stuff, and it's okay, I have so many stories. The malfunction stuff was our first tour. We landed in China, took a long trip, finally got to the destination, don't understand the language, stressed out, just because, you know, after flying for that long, you're kind of like, your nerves are kind of a bit shot. And anyways, we got to the venue, and the gear that we had selected on our tech writer, what we agreed on with the booker, wasn't the same, but we said we'll still do the show because we know how to DJ anyways, right? So we'll figure it out. And then for some reason, the stage wasn't grounded properly, and like the electricity kept on going off. Imagine mid-set, the whole electricity stops.
Oh.
Happened like twice. And we're like, wow, is this even safe? So that's the issue. And they resolved that eventually, and we finished a set. It was just frustrating after such a long haul, a long trip. But what Clark is talking about is more of a production concept that I tend to bring up during the mentorship whenever it comes up. It was, we were, I don't recall the city. I think it was in Wuhan, funny enough. I believe it's because we've played in Wuhan several times. Massive clubs, by the way, third biggest city in China.
Nice.
We're in Wuhan, and we were invited to do a production demonstration, and part of the demonstration was for us to walk people through our tracks, and we had a snare. The snare channel, and I was telling them the importance of removing the low end below the transient, because the laptop I was showing the example on was connected to the club's sound system, and the club has a massive amount of subs. When I actually did a low pass to remove all the snare sound all the way up to the transient to show that low end rumble, sometimes on headphones you don't hear that, but in the club the whole club was rattling. And that was a point I wanted to make, in the sense that, like, make sure you remove the low end noise you don't need in an instrument. And just that snare was rumbling the subs, right? You might not hear it in your studio in small speakers, but it actually plays a role. So that example was like even more shocking to me, because I knew it was going to rumble, but not that much. You know, so remove your low end. That's kind of the story, and that's a great example. Like, the students were like, "Holy shit!" So this was a master class that I ran before our gig at the club in Wuhan. They said, "Why don't you guys have some fans here learning to produce? Why don't you guys kind of come here and do an education class right before the gig, before the club opened up?" So that's the kind of the story that he's talking about.
That's interesting. I just imagine you going, "All right, y'all, now if you really want to get your subs knocking, let's boost that low end in your snare. A real kick drum is in your snare drum." That's wild, man. Yeah, I remember you showing me in the process that there was cutting out low end, and that's something I knew already, but in there was a second step where you go again to remove absolutely low end to make sure it's not in there whatsoever, to get it really clean and crystal clear. So yeah, that I could definitely see that causing an issue with a track if there was unforeseen sub frequencies and like different instruments that aren't cleaned up. Let me see. Okay, so my next sort of phase would be how I ran into you, and so I'll kind of start it off. I was at work one day, and I think you sent me an email, and it was in regards to rounds presets. And so what's interesting for me is that several years ago, about four or 5 years ago, when I was living in Austin, Texas, I was trying to get out and show people my music, and I went to this video game like music convention, and there was this woman named Emily Mio, and I still have her card to this day, but she was talking about how she makes music for video games. I remember I
think you told me this story.
But
I don't remember the details, so like, I want to hear it again.
Yeah, I brought my CD or my phone and headphones to her, and I was like, "Hey, I make music, and it sounds a lot very video gamey." I was like, "Do you mind listening to it?" And I played it for her, and she kind of paused, and she's like, and she was like, "That's interesting." She goes, she's like, "But do you make like sounds for like synthesizers and stuff?" She was not really interested in the music at all, and I was like, "Huh?" I was like, "That was random," and I was like, "No, not really." And she's like, "You should do that," and I was like, "Okay." And so then I went home, and I was like, what synth should I do? And I don't really like picking the mainstream stuff. I was like, let me kind of pick an oddball one. And so I was like, well, I'll start with rounds. So I got into rounds. I was like, this is actually a really cool synth. And I was like, man, this thing is like, it has like 8 different oscillators, and it's just you can do like 4 at a time, but you can play with the pitches and all sorts of stuff. And it's like a sequence synth. I was like, okay, I can get really, really deep with this. And so I started doing sound design. I was like, dude, this is hella fun. And I ended up building Operculum audio.com, and I put them on there, and people would occasionally check it out. I had other stuff that people were more interested in, like FL Studio templates, but people check it out. And then one day you hit me up and you were asking about the synth presets and you wanted to sort of hear them. And I played you a couple, and you're like, okay, these sound pretty cool. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've never gotten feedback on anything. And I was like, oh, that's flattering to me to hear that somebody likes these, and that's cool. And then you told me, I think I asked you, I was like, so who are you and what do you do? And you're like, well, I'm glad you asked. And so,
yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I was like, oh, no way. And I was like, that's cool, man. And I think I followed you on Instagram, and I was looking at your post, and that's when I was like, oh, I gotta like hit this guy up about this. And everything in your post, you're like, are you struggling with music? Do you feel like you need to level up? Do you feel like you've hit sort of a plateau? And then you're also, one thing that really resonated with me was, do you watch YouTube videos all the time trying to get all your information? And I was like, yeah, I do. And here's a big epiphany I had actually after the fact, was that I realized I went for a walk in the woods, and it sort of this like thought came to me, and I was like, oh, that's what I was doing the whole time until I met Varti, was that I was the equivalent of the person who calls like a doctor's office for like a free phone consult. And I was like, hi, I have a rash, can you help me fix this? And they're like, sir, this is a free phone consult, you're gonna have to schedule an appointment and come in and see a doctor, just some crazy stuff, right? And so I was the equivalent of the person who was trying to get all the answers over like a free phone consult. And I realized, like, there's only so deep you can go with that. You need to actually schedule like long periods of time and sit down one-on-one and get professional help in whatever area that you're doing. And I was like, oh my God, I was trying to solve this huge issue with free phone consults, and I was like, that would have taken years, and it's not as focused. And that's sort of the service you provide, is narrowing down on the key areas that need work on, right? And so anyway, I was just thinking, I was like, oh man, I was like, that's funny. I was trying to go about it that sort of haphazard way. And I can say from personal experience, it was my first time doing any sort of mentorship like that, but day and night transformation for sure. And that's pretty much what you told me. So fast forward, I reached out to you and I said, hey, Varti, I was like, I think I'm interested in your program. We scheduled a talk and you talked to me, and I was really I didn't realize how nervous I was going to be. And then you asked me a couple questions. So you do like an interview process for those who are watching. Varti will kind of see if you're a good match for his teaching style and whatnot. And then you told me, if not, you could always forward me on to, I guess you have other connections on teachers and whatnot. And so I was like, oh man, this guy sets the bar really high. I was like, I feel like I have to be qualifying for this position here. And I was like, oh man, he takes this really seriously, and which is great. And so I did the thing, the interview, and then at the very end, my heart was like boom, 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 and totally unexpected. But then you were like, well, I got good news for you. I got you pre-approved for a Varti mentorship program. And I was like, dude, yeah, you said you gave me a couple days to think about it, but I was really nervous. Then I came back and I was like, you know what, just do it. Just go ahead and do it and go through the program and see what happens. And I did, and I just kind of slipped into it the first day, and it was great, and I could start seeing the transformation occurring over the next few weeks. And it's funny because I go back and listen to old tracks that I've done that we started working on to where they went to, and just like your test or what you were saying, it lived up to everything you said. So it was a very positive experience. And I'll say, everyone online who listens to my music, they're like, Operculum, what happened? How'd you get so good so fast? And I was like, yeah. I was like, this guy, the guy from Canada, man. So definitely people noticed a huge difference. And I actually went on a YouTuber's channel. I think he does sound design for, what's his name? oh my gosh, he did the remix of with Sia. I can't think of this guy's name. What is? I think he's Belgium. He's got long sort of hair. David Guetta.
Oh, he's French.
French. Okay. This guy does sound design for David Guetta, and I submitted a song, both songs that you helped me with, the first one and then the Kanye West remix. And he said, it sounds like this guy knows what he's doing. And I was like, oh man, it's awesome that that I was getting recognition from other people who do this on a professional level. So it was awesome, and I was like, yes, this is working just like I planned or had hoped. So anyway, that was my sort of experience, and like I said, yeah, it was a great experience, man. And I really appreciate the opportunity to have gotten to work with you. So
it's awesome, man. You're a great student.
Thank you.
And as much as Varti got me there, yes, I'm part of the equation, but at the same time, when you were nervous, right? You're nervous because you're making a big decision in your life, right? This is something that's super important for you. You're like, you know what, enough's enough. I've been trying by myself for a long time. I need to kind of fast track this process because this is something really important for me. And when you're kind of confronted with like a difficult decision in life where, fear comes about, what if it doesn't work out? What if, et cetera, right? And all the things that we tell ourselves to kind of stay average, you're kind of like walking through the wall of fire, but it's all on you. The fact that you went through that and you decided to join, right? And it was scary at first, right? And you did the work. You could have easily been the person that for some reason just maybe caved in, or not caved in, but like decided to say, you know what, no, I don't want to deal with this. There's like too much pressure, or whatever it is, right? Finances or whatever limiting beliefs around, or not wanting it bad enough. It's just a hobby, whatever, doing it on the side, you're not going to invest into a big education like this. But the fact that you've gone through it, right, in collaboration with my education method and how I cater the experience, is why you're where you are today, right? In terms of seeing that big leap in a short period of time. And that's what people have to remember, right? There's different types of educations, right? Courses you could buy, one-on-one help, then you have master classes and mentorships like mine, right? And you have all the information online. You actually do have all the information online, but it's highly complex, and it's hyper complex to put all that together in a way where you know what's next for you in terms of where you are. This is what I need to learn now. This is how I need to understand what I'm learning, and this is how I'm going to apply what I'm learning. There's so much complexity there, which has taken me over a decade of doing it full time, right? It all comes back down to if this is like something extremely serious for you, right, where you put all negative thoughts out the window in terms of, about 1 out of a million make it. That's false, because that not only is that the negative thought, it's also unrealistic. It's not true. Most people that I know in the industry that make a living off music, they're not superstars, but they live off music. They don't go to a job, right, that they don't enjoy. If you know you're serious and you want to do it, and you're at a point where this is where I am, I'm getting better, yes, but I need to truly level up, that's when you seek professional help. And that applies to everything, man. If I wanna get better, like you're good at your job, right? If I wanna work as a paramedic, right, I'm gonna have to go to school naturally, right? But once I graduate school, I'm not gonna be at your level. What do? I'll sit next to you, I'll learn from you for months and months and months and months and months, right? And then I'll get to your level and bypass all that stuff that you had to learn through experience. Experience still is going to play a massive role, but I bypassed so much, and this applies to everything in life, absolutely everything. It's just, that's kind of separates the people from those that are just dabbling with it, right? Those that believe that learning from others that have made it, doesn't really like account for anything. It's actually massive. Like we're showing you the shortcut, and the shortcut in a sense that, not that you're going to be professional tomorrow, but in terms of like we've gone through everything you've gone. I see very clearly where you're making your mistakes. You know, it's not a hunt where am I struggling with? How do I fix this?
Mm-hmm.
Someone sees it, tells you right away, you've leveled up right away. You know, so
Yeah.
it's massive. But a lot of producers have a hard time understanding that concept.
Yeah, it makes pretty good sense, and that's a lot of what you say really resonates with me. I'm a big fan of like NLP. I listened to a lot of back in the day, and like from age 18 to like 24, I used to listen to a lot of NLP self-help programs, and you know, one of the things that I still say to this day, which I really like, is sort of fits what you're saying, is you're the top 5, you're the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most, you know? So you want to make those people, choose those people wisely. Sometimes we don't have a choice, but when it comes to like this sort of thing, you know, essentially the more you saturate yourself among people who know what they're doing, just is like fertilizer for growth potential, you know?
100%.
So yeah, it's and that's really hopefully what I enjoy. A lot of my watchers, we meet on Sundays and do music and stuff, and I didn't really understand how important that was until I realized it was keeping me almost like a gym training session, right? It was like, oh, you know, you don't think about it that much. It was like, oh wait, you know, I've been doing this consistently for like the past couple months, and it really, just that little exercise really pays off, you know. So
yeah, 100%.
Speaking of which, great segue. Let's what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, that kind of quickly ties in. I don't know if you're gonna talk about that, but
Yeah.
about how to build your team and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
I made the live stream about it, right? Your environment is so important. You have to look at your life and say, what are, let's say, the top 3 most important things in my life?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have some form of mentorship? Whether it's paid mentorship, whether it's just mentorship through, let's say, being in a clique of some sort, whatever it is, right? Do I have someone that's ahead of me, that's where I want to be, that I'm learning from?
Yeah.
If you can't get that for free, pay for it, because money is meaningless.
Yeah.
Based on, if you can't get there, that's like super important in your life, right? You just put yourself in that position, or you do or you don't. Those that do, you see massive. In all aspects of life, if training is something super important for you, like gym,
Yeah.
get a personal trainer. Depends where you are. Some people might be at a point where they are at that level, but if, like, I'm not, right? Like, I have a boxing coach because I love boxing.
Mm-hmm.
I step in the ring with him and get beaten up all the time. Versus just punching the punching bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a massive difference in terms of experience.
Yeah.
Because that's something that's really important for me. I really want to get good at it. I want to be able to really protect myself. XYZ, right? Music, for a lot of producers, that's what it is. It's like, okay, well, you're not really taking it seriously if you're just dicking around, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah. So what was your segue?
Oh, fitness. I was talking, you know, that you do boxing, and you know, I like. I don't do boxing so much. I have punching gloves that I occasionally hit at the gym, but like I went this morning, and it kind of supercharges me throughout the rest of the day. And I know one of the things we kind of talked about during the mentorship program, just more on a personal level, I was telling you how I do the keto diet. I mostly like blend walnuts. It's not glorious or anything, but it gets the job done. I try and stay as much away from animals that I can, just eat like a very clean diet, to kind of, I think the cleaner you eat your diet, that it just, your thought process is cleaner, you know. And I was wondering, in your experience as far as fitness and your I know you're plant-based, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. How would you say has that impacted you in just all around and in music?
Yeah. I mean, not to get too much into the weeds, because I'm not a nutritionist or an expert, right? And there is a nutritionist or an expert talking. I don't want to say something that's like off.
Yeah.
Just in terms of what I've gone through. I mean, I've eaten meat and I have nothing against eating meat in general. I just tend to focus to eating plant-based diet, right? So basically just, you know, vegetable-based, legume-based, etc. Less like no animal product.
Yeah.
I don't know, my energy levels through the roof. You know, well, you know, and some people don't associate that with like, oh, you must be weak, you don't have calcium or protein. It's like, well, that's all false.
Yeah.
I do get calcium, I do get protein, and enough to see muscle growth and lose weight, you know. Most importantly for me, it would have been a problem if I went to the gym, or if I went swimming, or if I went boxing and I see no improvement.
Yeah.
And I might say, you know what, am I working hard enough? Yes, I am, but why am I not able to cross this threshold? Is it my diet, right? Haven't hit those walls. I'm getting better at boxing. My cardio is much stronger. My punches are getting stronger. I could lift more. I could swim longer. My form's getting better in swimming.
Nice.
Now, is this 100% related to my diet? No, it's a lot of effort that I put into it, and I study these arts, right?
Mhm.
But has diet helped me out? 100%.
Yeah.
When I used to consume a lot more on the meat side, I just used to feel a bit heavier. I wouldn't say I was unhealthy.
Yeah.
It's just, I just feel better. I have much better digestion now. I don't have reflux, you know. That might be a lot of other things, but overall I've realized switching the diet to plant-based has helped me with reflux, has helped me with overall energy consistency throughout the day.
Nice. Yeah.
Whether I train or not, you know.
Mhm.
So, and I don't really need coffee to keep my energy levels up too. So all of this has kind of kept me more interested in staying plant-based, because I don't believe in like, this is it and that's the only right answer.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone has different lives, different types of philosophies and approaches in life, and different body composures.
Mm-hmm.
Right? As much as I could sit down and say, well, veggies are super healthy and animals aren't, because of how they're raised, and half the time they're sick by the time they're killed so we could eat them.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, it's like vegetables are covered with pesticides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I can't sit here and say, you know, I have like, you know, a god level diet, and no, but it's just working better for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You know?
and then there's always GMO, you know, some foods are
Yeah.
GMO, you know, so yeah.
And that's where it gets complicated, the topic. But just in general, in terms of if I were to hunt an animal like a deer, I would eat it. You know what I mean? Not that I'm into purposefully killing animals or treating it as pure game.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Yeah.
not the intent.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, there's like a naturalness in terms of like, you know, it's an animal living in the wild. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it kind of creates appreciation, and also me kind of overcoming my anxiety of hunting an animal, you know,
Mhm.
and it's like actually treating it with respect and eating everything and not wasting. It's like you go to a barbecue party and then you see kids throwing away burgers. It's like,
Oh yeah.
that just kind of hurts me a bit, you know?
Yeah.
And I get it. You're not hungry anymore. Put it in the fridge, eat it tomorrow.
Yeah. So
You know what I mean?
You take almost like a, I'm not sure what, I think Indians, like Native Americans, were big into eating like the whole animal, and they would use their bones. Or I know certain cultures around the world were big into that. Like they would even take the bones and use it, turn it into like instruments or different tools,
Yeah.
you know? So it's really like getting 100% effective. It's like a respect thing, kind of like you said. It's like we're gonna use
100%, yeah.
everything that we can, you know. So, but
It's just so easy, like walking in a supermarket and then just seeing like, oh, red meat everywhere, right? It's like
Mhm.
you don't think about it, and what was the process, and that's fine. Not judging anyone or their beliefs or how they approach diet.
yeah,
Just for me, through time, I've kind of grown distant to that, and I don't. While I could sit down and eat a steak and say, "Wow, this is delicious,"
hmm
I'm not crazy.
yeah.
I've kind of built a distance through time from it, simply because I've realized it has had positive value in the way I show up, when I write music. I don't feel sluggish.
Yeah.
Helps me with my physical conditioning, which helps me in the studio. It just all tied up. Your biology is super important, and whatever works for you, I think is important, because at the end of the day, you need your biology to write music. You know?
Absolutely.
So-
Yeah, I was like kind of like what you said. I'm not, you know, knocking anybody who eats meat. I still occasionally do. I'll go, God, I love Chick-fil-A. Hey, do you have Chick-fil-A up there in Canada?
Is that what, chicken breast that's deep fried?
Yeah.
Pan and deep fried?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's the particular restaurant, Chick-fil-A.
Oh no, we don't.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty addicting.
Is it like KFC?
It's like, I would say it's better than KFC. It's
The same category.
yeah,
right?
definitely same category.
Deep fried
It's more
chicken.
like sandwich based. They don't do beef.
Okay.
It's just all chicken, but it's pretty good. So
I know.
when I do break my diet, it's usually with Chick-fil-A. So but yeah, no, I agree though. Like, you know, I've tried getting like my dad to move away to eat less carbs and less meat, and he's like, you know what? He's like, son, I just love me a good burger. And I was like, I just gotta give up. Let people, if it works, it works. You know, let everyone do kind of. Yeah, I'm not out here to change the whole world or anything. If I just trying to make myself more efficient. So anyway,
100%. Yeah.
definitely.
I agree.
Let me see here, man. I think just a few more questions, and then we're good. Well, how are we on time right now?
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Question: did you upgrade to Ozone 10?
Not yet.
Not yet.
It seems to have some interesting features in terms of like width matching and dynamic matching,
Yeah.
which I haven't fully looked into the difference between 9 and 10.
Yeah.
I haven't. I have all the tools I need to make professional sounding music. You know, it's all 90% of it is in your head and how you can execute. And yeah, not saying that plugins are worthless. They're not.
Yeah.
You know, there's some plugins that you need to make a mix sound better, but it's not the plugin. If I had to choose, I'd rather have knowledge than specific gear, because even with minimal amount of plugins, with the right amount of knowledge and experience, you can make a mix sound amazing.
Definitely.
You know,
That's one of the things also I saw in your post where you identify that, in that sort of thought process was the person who thinks they have to have the latest and greatest plugins to sound amazing. And that's actually, it's a great marketing strategy for companies to make profit and sell their plugins, you know. Of course they want to get it out there and be successful, but from like a producer standpoint, I've kind of fallen to that trap from time to time, thinking I needed like the latest and greatest stuff when I could just load up Silent, and that's one of the best saw synths of all time, like soft synths of all time. Like it's hard for me to find a saw synth that sounds better than Silent. It's just so crispy, you know. And some, like you said, you don't always need to upgrade to the latest things. If it works, it works, and you know, stick to what works. So
100%. It's not, if you have Ozone 9 and your production doesn't sound professional,
yeah,
Ozone 10 is not going to solve it.
it's not.
It's not. No. It's not the width matching or the dynamic matching that's going to make your production sound, oh, now my music is as compressed as my favorite artist or as wide as my favorite artist. There's millions of other things that could be wrong with your production.
Yeah.
And Ozone might maybe help a bit. It's not going to be what's going to solve the issue.
Yeah.
So that's the, like, sometimes buying new plugins in terms of virtual instruments, not processing plugins. Virtual instruments could definitely help you out in terms of, sometimes you might have limited access to sounds or synthesis, and another synth, another virtual instrument or another sampler or rompler could really give you creative edge, or you know what I mean. But you should not go down the rabbit hole of owning everything in the world, and you know, far from it. If you have like 3-4 different synths, a couple of samplers, it's more than enough, really, you know. Even inspirationally, there are different ways to overcome inspirational blocks, which I've talked a lot about on Facebook and with students, that I rather lean on versus buying new plugins. I used to buy new plugins because I say, if I have that sound, maybe I could write better music. No, you're not writing better music because you're struggling with the fundamentals of production.
Yes.
That's the thought process, right? But does it help creatively? Yeah, it does. Do you have to rely on it? Do you have to absolutely get it? No. In terms of processing plugins, sometimes there are plugins that you really need to do specific things. But it comes back to the same thought process. If you have, let's say, Ableton or FL, just the stock plugins and maybe a couple of purchased ones, not 50 other, couple of other purchased ones, should make you sound professional. Will you sound, see, there's like professional, and then there's, let's say you are able to hit professional level. There's professional level, and then there's professional plus a bit of you, right? That's where everyone differs in terms of like some people like using fab filters, some people like using whatever, just stock plugins or other types of third-party plugins. It's still professional, and you just kind of could give a bit more of a shyness and brightness or whatever it is that the track needs. But third-party plugins do help. They're not the reason why you're not sounding amazing. Comes down to your composition, the fundamentals we talk about in the mentorship: composition, sound design, all the small bit stuff all into it, proper storytelling. If you're not checking these boxes properly, even the best synths in the world are not going to get you there.
Definitely. And I'm not sure who's watching, but that's sort of Varti's whole framework, and what he teaches is that a lot of what you've said during this live stream is what you've repeated, and drilling these important concepts in to understanding that. So it just leads down a very sort of focused path that one can start churning out really consistent music that sounds good and professional. So it's really just like a blueprint, you know. But it's these like key concepts and ideas that are important to sort of overcome. Like one of the first things you mentioned to me was I called myself a perfectionist, and then you said, I just want to tweak something real quick. Let's adjust that thought process, you know. And I was like, I didn't even know that I was carrying that around with me, and you addressed it right then and there. I was like, oh wow, man, that's what's so great about working with you, Varti, is that you kind of address these like little, it's almost like little like bugs underneath the carpet, you know, that you just kind of iron things out and make a producer more well-rounded. So
yeah, mindset is huge, man.
Yeah,
mindset is huge.
Yeah,
it's a big part of well, I mean, it's not the majority of it. It's a big part of what I teach, because half the time it's in your brain. If you are not utilizing your thoughts properly, you're already like have shot yourself in the foot, and you're trying to like run at a race.
Yeah,
you know. So we got to fix that while we show you how to run properly. You know what I mean? I could show you how to run if you have 1 foot shot, though. You know. You're not gonna get far.
Somebody's gonna need some rehab for a little bit.
Yeah 100%. And the thing about being a perfectionist, it's like that's a coping mechanism to justify where you are.
Yeah,
that's a coping mechanism to justify the fact that you're stuck in your music. Oh, I'm a perfectionist, that's why I don't finish tracks. Well, no, you don't finish tracks because you don't understand how to produce professional music.
Varti's just getting right down to the nitty gritty here, and that's honestly what I needed. You know, it's like I guess I wasn't even aware. It was just like an unconscious thing in me, and that's what I spewed out. I didn't even know it was an issue, you know, and I just said this thing. And that's the great thing of hiring, you know, working with a professional, is that they address it right there really quick, and you're like, holy crap, man, it was a level up for me just right there. And it's been more integrating that and coming to recognize that myself and overcome that, and, you know, move past that. So definitely. Let me see here. Couple more questions. Last couple. What is the future of Varti and what you do?
Yeah. Currently, I'm in a process of even further improving the mentorship. Not that it's not great now. It's great. I'm just finding ways to. I'm always looking for ways to make the experience even better. Right. For me, it's important that producers not only go through the program and see massive improvement in their identity as a producer, but also in terms of building a network. And we started the collective, so whoever joins is part of the collective, and I want that collective to be the next click that you want to be part of. Because while you compile, you know, the average of the 5 people you hang out with, when you compile super serious producers in the same room, like the frequency that you guys are all vibrating at is much higher than 99% of other producers out there. I want to put all these people in the same room, because through that type of effort and thought process, there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to find some form of success. And when you're part of a clique where you piggyback on each other's success, people from the outside look to you and say, you know what? Well, Tom's lucky because he has contacts, he has connections. Well, that's loser talk because Tom built his connections.
Mm-hmm.
You know, by, let's say, being part of the mentorship, by putting yourself out there, by communicating, by building friendships with the right people in the industry.
Yeah.
Not just randos complaining on Facebook. You know, so I'm being tough. I've just seen it, man.
Yeah.
You know, when you see like hundreds of producers in front of you, like whether fail or succeed, you start seeing what works, right? Not only how it worked for me, but I see how it works in a lot of other people.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the lessons I extract. So the future of Varti is more focusing a lot on that group, growing number of students that join. There's a lot of students joining. I'm hiring producers slowly to help me out with the process of educating, because I'm one person. So the more I could grow the business and the education in a way where we could take on more students and deliver the same quality of work, I could serve more students at the same time, which is important for me.
Nice.
That's pretty much the future of what we're looking at, how things are going to pan out. We'll see. I'm just excited.
It sounds awesome, man. It sounds like you're a tree that's growing branches, like sprouting all over the place. So definitely awesome, man. And I appreciate you coming through and talking to me about this. And I feel like I understand, not that I didn't before, but just this conversation is like, it grows in my head of like what you're doing in your mission, and you're so consistent with what you say. It's impressive, man, and I like your message and what you have to say. You know, just you got your ducks in a row and delivering a positive message. And I like the talk about the loser talk, because I feel like that's almost like a phase that people don't have to go through, but I've certainly been there myself. And you know, it's just those little things needing identifying to kind of iron out the crinkles and whatnot, and become that next version 2.0 3.0 of ourselves. So, and that's it's very enjoyable, man. So it's awesome. So anyway, I'm gonna look real quick. I just want to see if anybody has. Oh, we got a couple people in here. So we got Viral Beats, DJ Normal Norman. Norm is actually, we got Bamvox Second Attack. So Isomatic, what's up, everybody? DJ Normal Norman is is the closest to what you do, as far as he does house music, and I think I'm trying to remember what specifically genre of house he does. It's like tech progressive, I think, sometimes melodic techno.
Nice.
We got some other guys in here. I have a wide range of producers in here. Melodic, he says he does melodic, really good stuff. But anyway, so I figured he might have I don't know if he's heard of you, but yeah, he's a pretty talented producer. You're from the UK, I think, right, Norm? I think he's from the UK, and he's seen UFOs. So I was like,
UFOs?
Yeah, he's seen UFOs. That's one thing that I lived near Fort Hood for several years, and I saw. This is my paranormal talk, but I saw a UFO. I've seen 3 in my lifetime, but I saw a giant silver disc hovering. It wasn't a disc; it was a sphere sitting in the sky, hovering over a house. And I have lots of the people I went to school with in that area have seen UFOs. Actually, a group of friends were walking on the golf course, and it could have been a drone, but what I saw was the size of a water tower, and it was spinning silently in the sky, and it grew this white flame around it, and then it's just sat in the sky, made no noise, and then disappeared, shot at some crazy speed, diagonal, and faded out of vision. So it looked like it was some sort of cloaking technology, if I say, because I would have seen it travel all the way as a solid object, but it like a dimmer switch, it kind of dimmed out. And after I saw that, I was like, well, I'll be damned. And I was like, okay, there might be something to this UFO phenomenon. So anyway, I really don't know, but I just know what I saw was in like 2004, and this thing was massive. So I've always been sort of a UFO nut. I can't say any conclusive statements, but it's interesting to think about and postulate. So
I've seen none. I like the
none. You like
but
it
I like
that way?
Nothing cool happens in Canada.
Nothing. Oh man, you know there used to be a website called I forget the name, but you could sign up to be abducted by UFOs and aliens, and I actually signed my parents up. I was like, oh, I'll show you. So I signed them up to be abducted. I don't know if they ever were or weren't, but
Wow, that's funny.
I don't think I've ever told them, and we'll see. I'll have to do some like regressive hypnotherapy on them to see if it worked or not. So, but yeah. So anyway, but yeah, man, thanks for coming through. And like I said, Varti, one of the coolest teachers I've ever come across, and definitely helped me level up in what you do, man. So thank you, and I guess I'll be seeing you in the Facebook chat, and I guess if anybody's here interested, you can be reached on Instagram. What's the best way to get in contact with you?
If you're on Instagram, Mix with Varti.
Mix with Varti?
MixWithVarti, Mix with Varti. Or Facebook. Varti Deuchoghlian, if you want to type it out for people. And send me a friend request, and you'll be in my network. I can add you to my group. It's free to join. And we run like kind of weekly live streams, track feedback, or educational live streams. I have one right now actually, where I'm going to talk about promo pools, the importance of it, how to utilize promo pools for promoting your music when you have a release coming up.
Nice. Awesome, man. Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, appreciate you taking the time out to do this today, and I hope the rest of your day goes well, and good congrats on the newborn, or the soon to be born. Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. All right, Varti, take care, man. I'll talk to you next time, or whenever that may be. So
see you, man.
All right, man. Later.